I've gone and done a thing.
Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Autocrafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today.
Now what that thing is this. I know, I need another car like I need a hole in the head, but what my goal with this car is to actually go along and fix some of the major problems that it has with it and then turn that car back around and send it out the door. We don't want to hold on to this car. We want to be able to make a little bit of money on the car and then use that money to go and buy something else for us to keep doing that with on the show. I would like to try over the next couple of years to work our way up into cars that are of a really nice variety that just need a couple of things done to them, or they're older restorations showing just a little bit of wear. Decent paint, but maybe they need things done to the engine, interior, and all that. So this is the genesis of that idea. This is the very first one. This is a 1975 Gran Torino. It is a very base model car. It was originally an H-code 351 Windsor with an FMX transmission. Someone has gone in now and put a 351 Windsor with a C4 transmission, which is good for us because he said when we bought this from the owner that the transmission wasn't operating correctly. I tried driving the car yesterday and he's right. The transmission will not shift in anything but drive. It'll start off in third and it'll stay in third. But there's a lot of cool stuff on this car. There's things that came with it, like a complete parts car. It doesn't have an engine or transmission, but the rest of it's there, and it's a Gran Torino Sport. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about before we moved on to looking underneath the hood of this 75 is how nice this grille is. These grilles are exceptionally hard to come by now in good condition, and this one has no cracks, no visible signs of damage, so it is in really good shape. The only place I found anything is this one little dent right here on the upper section of the trim on the outside, but the grill itself, really nice. These grills on these later Torinos are actually going for in excess of 400 bucks a lot of times on eBay. So that is in that kind of shape makes me happy. Now, I'm gonna go pop the hood. Honestly, on these Torinos, there's probably enough metal in the hood to build another car like a Toyota or something. There's the engine. Let's talk about it a little bit. So underneath here we have a 351 Windsor with a Edelbrock Performer RPM intake on it, an Edelbrock carburetor, the 1406 I believe, factory AC which was originally on the car, so this has all been put to rights to make the Windsor work. This car could possibly, by 75, being an H code, have been a 351 Windsor. It just depended on where the car was built and what they had at the time. A lot of times they would put a Cleveland in here earlier on and it would have almost always been a Cleveland, but by 1974, 75, the Windsor had started to come around as the engine that they would go to. And basically power steering, power disc brakes, it's really solid in here. I've checked the core support. The lower part of the core support on these tends to rust out. It's in good shape. The battery tray area over here where they're almost always rusty is in nice shape. And the cowls seem to be okay. Now the owner said that this car had a windshield leak with it. I don't know if it really honestly has a windshield leak or if it has a problem with water getting in through a rust hole somewhere up at the cowl area. These cars are bad about taking dirt and shoving it under speed, shoving dirt and water and stuff underneath the glass at the front lower edges where I'm showing you right now. Those areas can be a real problem for that, and so you'll end up getting rust in there and that'll all pinhole and then suddenly you've got a leak issue up there. Not that hard to fix if you've got a MIG welder. The guy we bought the car from does not own a MIG welder. He doesn't have a way to fix it, so he kind of put the car on down the road because of a couple of little things we're going to be showing you in just a minute. So interior-wise, this car is actually kind of neat as well. All right, so what has it got? Well, it's got the Competition instrumentation group in it. That was kind of an option that you could have all the way up into the Thunderbirds, but the problem with that is they're getting really hard to find. These aren't exactly available every day out there on the market. You can find them on eBay, and you can find them in the yards rarely now, but they are kind of a neat addition to these cars. Normally it had a 4-pot system in here, which is just kind of boring. This gives you full instrumentation with a tachometer. Speaking of with a tachometer, this car came with this Competition Gauge Package plus an additional one, plus an additional tach in case you have a tachometer problem in here. Owner put an aftermarket retro sound radio. We love retro sound. We've used them in a lot of our cars, so he's got a retro sound radio in here, and it's just nice. I may go in and rework the speakers because the speakers he's using, they're not really as good as some of the retro sound speakers can be, so we may go in and muck around with the sound system just a little bit. Air conditioning does not work. You could witness that by the belt out there, but the blower motor works. Everything on the AC control panel operates like it's supposed to. I don't know. I can't find much not to like. Seats in the car are out of an XR7. We believe he thought that's where they got them from. So he put these seats in here. They're in kind of what I think the color was called cognac, but I'm not sure about that. It's basically a really dark ginger color. That kind of ties nicely with the wood graining inside of the car. The rest of the interior has been done over in black and is a re-dye from the original dark green that was in here from the factory. This car was originally kind of a pea green outside with a dark green inside. Everybody's happy with that color combination. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop out of here real quick before I move on to the rest of the car and go over that and talk about what came with the car as in parts that are with this thing, which is actually kind of cool. Oh, and the headliner's in good shape too. So, what else did we get for our $3,200? Well, all of this loot. The car came with everything you see on the floor here, plus more that's in the trunk of the car, plus the parts car that's still over the guy's house that we have to go pick up. There's an intake manifold. We've got the extra tach sitting on it. That intake manifold was on the car. The previous owner put the RPM intake manifold on it to replace the Street Master. There's the Sport door panels from the actual Sport. The back trim panels are in this pile of stuff. Inside the box there, back behind, there's just a bunch of other stuff. There's glass that goes with it, side glass, as well as the quarter window glass. We have the original third member, which was a 309-inch. It has now been converted to a 350 traction lock. And then behind that is an AOD transmission that he bought from a fellow, included it with our car, and all the parts are with that transmission to put it in this car. It has the TV cable from Low Car that you need. It has the flex plate and block plate. All that stuff is there. He even has the yokes and all that to go on the end of this one to made up to the drive shaft underneath the car. Will we put that AOD in this car? I don't know. Right now with the 350 gear and the C4 and the 351, this is going to be a thirsty car whenever we're driving it around. It's going to use a lot of fuel. The AOD could help with that, but it's also not a 4R70W. So I'm a little skeptical about I'm a little skeptical. I'm giddy. I'm a little skeptical about throwing that thing in there, but we might do it. If you guys want to see that at some point down the road, we can shoot a video on it. A lot of the things I'm talking about that are here on the floor are not going to be shown in video. We're just going to bust into this thing and run through it. Another thing I really wanted to talk about real quick before we go to the trunk is he even included a cutout section of the trunk weather strip area. I hate that Ford did this, but they did it quite a lot where the trunk weather strip is down inside of a channel, and that tends to promote rust. So we're going to have to go in and actually possibly do something with all of this. I'll see about that later. I'm going to go to the trunk and open the trunk and just show you that it's really a nice trunk, and there's a big box of parts in there as well. All right, so what do we have in the trunk? In the trunk we have a box of loot. There's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm not going to unpack all of this, but there's an extra Competition Gauge Package in here. There's the original Ford AM/FM. No, this is the aftermarket radio that was in here. Somebody had put a really cool cassette deck. So if you want an Audio Vox cassette deck for your Torino, does it work? I have no idea. But there's all that kind of stuff in here. There's the original gauge panel. There's just a bunch of stuff in here that goes with the car. that'll be used in various areas or sold off in order to finance other things on the car. When you buy a car like this, it has a lot of loot with it. It's one of the things that you can do. You can take that loot and turn it out in order to throw money back into the bank to work on the car. So if we wanted to, we could take the AOD and sell the AOD with all the stuff that goes with it and be able to make $300 or $400 in order to put back toward the car. Same thing with the competition gauge packages and the wiring harness from the parts car. If we wanted to, we could take all that stuff, throw it out there in the market and make some money back. There's even another grille just like the one that's in this car that we could sell if we wanted to. Will we part out that car or try to do something with it? I don't know. We're still kind of up in the air about that. But I wanted to point out something. This is the original green that was on this car. That is probably the most hideous color I have ever seen for a color on a car. It doesn't look specifically green. It looks like white that somebody decided they accidentally painted the car with a little bit of green from another car in their paint gun still, and it just turned to a kind of a white green. It's not even avocado. It's just kind of a pale, pasty green. Kind of off-putting, if you ask me. Weirdly, it's not on here now because it's on the actual parts car so we can get it rolling around when we go to pick it up. The spare is actually with this car along with the jack and the handle. Very unusual on these cars. Most of the time when you buy something at this price range, you do not get a spare and you do not get a jack. I don't know where they go, but they go somewhere. So that's it on this part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it up in the air and I'm going to talk a little bit about the undercarriage and what comes with the car that's down there. But that's going to require me to use the lift. All right, so what have I got here under the undercarriage? This car is incredibly clean. The car was originally DSO'd into New York, but I don't see any indications of this thing sitting in New York for a long period of time. It may have been DSO'd there, but it must have been sold and moved south pretty quickly. There is a little bit of floor pan rust. That's this spot right in here, and it's a few pinholes. I will probably go in and treat that with POR 15 and then just put something on there to keep this stuff from getting any worse and not mess with it. Probably go in and put some sealer of some kind on it. I might even slab it with a little bit of the Evercoat body filler I like to use in these instances. That is not bad enough for me to go in and want to replace an entire floor pan just to fix 3 pinholes of rust. Not going to do it. The exhaust system on this thing, it's mint. It's not in the best of shape. We have a problem with a collector up here which is separated the gasket, so it's leaking really badly on the driver's side. The passenger side, behind the collector point on there, there's actually rust holes in the bottom of the tubes of the header. I am going to attempt a repair. I'm not going to video that, but I'm going to attempt a repair on it just so I can get it sealed up, just so I can hear what the engine is doing. I really don't want to go in and actually have to replace the headers yet. I have a set of tri-wides which I feel pretty confident we could use in here, but I don't want to do that if I don't need to. If I can fix that problem with the welder, even though I'll probably do a little bit of chasing and I'm going to get sparks all over my legs, I'm going to be a very angry man by the time it's done, I don't want to mess with it. Some little things that are kind of disconcerting is how they put the seats in here, and that there's only 2 bolts here and there's no bolts on the outside of the passenger seat. We probably will have to rectify that situation. I will also probably go in and cut these a little shorter so that they're not hanging down in the airways, so to speak, underneath the car. Up front, I'm not going to really show you too much of that, but the entire front suspension, brake system is all brand new as of about 9 years ago. He says he's put very minimal miles on it, so we know that that's okay. The lower control arms look to be replaced. The upper control arms are in good shape. There's no squeaking from it. It bounces and jounces pretty nice. When you put pressure on the system, it doesn't cause a problem. The big problem is the C4 that's in here. This C4 is not in good shape, and I don't know if it's a problem with the shifting mechanism or possibly the modulator, but it will go into reverse, it'll go into drive, but I can't get it to go into low and second. And it won't shift into anything beyond drive. In other words, the third gear is all it seems to have right now. I don't really have a problem with all of that because we have a C4 here at the shop that's a built C4 that we're going to go ahead and probably use in this car if we need to, at least to get it to where it motivates and goes down the road. That way we can test everything out. It's going to scream bloody murder because of the 350 gear out back, but I don't care. One of the other cool things about this car, and this is where I'm going to kind of close this thing out for right now, just wanted you guys to be able to take a look at it, is that the guy did put a full competition handling package on this car. He has the big 1 1/8 front sway bar. He has the larger rear sway bar from the XR7s that he got out of another car. So all that stuff is already here. Gas tank is in good shape. I mean, the car, to me, coming with this car and a parts car, the price he asked, the $3,200, I don't think is all that bad. I actually think $3,200 is really pretty darn good. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger on this. Like I said, this car is going to be for sale at some point. We are not going to be keeping this one. So keep your eyeballs peeled. If you're into these kind of Torinos, this would be a good opportunity for you to actually pick up one after we're done with it. Because we're going to try to get the air conditioning running, working with our friends at Classic Auto Air. A lot of things we're planning on doing that are going to be things that we do while we keep it driving. That's going to be our goal on this one. This one stays a driver. Once we get the transmission put in here that we've got on the stand out there, or we find a way to repair this one, it's going to be in the road. It's not going to be sitting around. So keep that in mind. Do me a favor, folks. Patreon, you know where we're going with this. Patreon is a great way for you to come out and support us on a monthly basis. If we do anything on these old cars to help you out, it's a good way for you to say, hey, thanks for doing that. Plus, it helps me to be able to pay Darren to come in here and shoot during the weeks. He's only on a part-time basis right now. We'd love to be able to bring Darren on as a full-time employee, but we can't do that because of capitalism. Well, not because of capitalism, but because we believe in capitalism. If there's no capital, hedonism. So if you want to help Darren out, that's one way to do it. But also there's other things that you get for doing this. One of those things is we're going to be doing a doodle drawing every month. Anybody within the Patreon group can get the doodle. You'll see one I've got over here or maybe over here. I'm not sure where Darren's going to put it. But the doodle I'm showing you right now is one that I did for our recent car show that we do on the Zoom meeting. We call it the Zoom Zoom Car Show. Yeah, I know it's a lame name, blah, blah, blah. It's no worse than Super Thanks. We'll get to that in just a minute. You get those things. We're going to be doing mug giveaways. We're going to be doing t-shirt giveaways. There's a lot of things that are going to be done to help enhance the experience of being on there with me once a month because, you know, we want to try to get more people helping us out with this. The other thing we have that you can do is you can do a one-time gift through Super Thanks. That's right, folks. Super Thanks, the best, worst named idea that YouTube had. It inspired me to do the Zoom Zoom Car Show because I figured if you got Super Thanks, Zoom Zoom is nothing. The Zoom Zoom Car Show, that is. So Super Thanks is your one-time way to thank us for what we do for you. If we had one video that you went, hey man, that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed the video. You can put some money in there. You can do anything from I think $1 or $2 all the way up to $1.5 million. We're still waiting on that guy with the $1.5 million to come along and throw that money at us to allow us to not ask for any more money for a long, long time. If we get the $1.5 million, government gets half of it, Patreon gets a portion of it. By the time we're done, we'll probably have $1.50, I'm figuring, because of the way things go with the government. Right? Right. So folks, be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice, and we'll see you on down the road. You know, I almost didn't do this. I really didn't, because it's $3,200. I didn't have extra to play with. We had some money to play with, enough to do this, but we're also trying to find Jackson a car. He's operating camera today, I guess in a show of solidarity and goodwill, so that maybe we'll find him something really cool. But yeah, so, you know, I almost didn't do this, but I'm glad I did. I think this is, as what I always like to say, is a good, honest car. I think it's going to be a good one for us to do, and it's going to be one that's going to stay mobile for a pretty good while, and hopefully be down the road within about 6 to 8 months, maybe a year from now. Unless Jackson just starts boo-hooing and says he wants it and he can't help himself, he's got to have it. So, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What should we do? Should we have Jackson pay us thousands and thousands of dollars for a 75 Gran Torino? Or should we find something more cooler than that for Jackson Johnson? He has been a tremendous help around here with the camera stuff and all that. He's a good dude. If you have a really cool classic car that's not a Revolto or a Alfa Romeo, anything American iron built between, say, 1963 and 1975, because that's what this one is. See what I did there. On these, I would extend into the later years. But if it's a really good car that's cool and running and driving, hey, let us know. We may come to your house and do a video of picking up a car and throwing some money in your hand. Could happen. Bye.
And action. Shut up.
I'm allergic to work.
Same.
Yeah.